Welcome to the amazing digital circus ranking! My name is Ronan from Rabbits and Reels. I'm your review master, and I'm here to show you the most jaw-dropping, heart-stopping, mind-bending paraphernalia you ever laid eyes upon. Isn't that right, Bubble?
Two of our voice actors said something close to a racial slur.
Well, let's not waste any time. Let's get right to it. The amazing digital circus. This show never fails to deliver. I can't remember the last time I watched a show where the episodes just kept getting better as the series goes on. Shows like this rarely happen, especially in the modern day. I've been supporting Glitch Productions since their SMG4 days. It's so refreshing to see a small indie team grow into an entertainment juggernaut. This series is jam-packed with unforgettable characters, funny moments, mind-blowing twists and turns, and a great concept based on a book. Now, I've never read I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream, nor have I played the game on Steam, but this series is the closest thing I'll ever get to witnessing it, and I'm cool with that. Now that the finale is out and the series has come to a close, it's time to join me on an adventure through this whole wacky world as I rank all 9 episodes of the amazing digital circus. Now, I know my channel is known for spoiler-free reviews, but for this one, I kinda have to give spoilers in order to fully examine this show fairly. So if you haven't seen the series and you don't want spoilers, I suggest you click off of this video and come back when you're finished watching it. Now, without further ado, let's go like a Super Mario.
I work at Burger King making flamethrower Whoppers. I wear paper hats.
There's not really a bad episode of the amazing digital circus, but if I had to tell you which one is my least favorite, it would have to be episode 4, the fast food masquerade. Nothing really happens in this episode. Sure, we get a little backstory on Gangle, but it's just these characters screwing around at this knockoff McDonald's. Ragatha gets high on stupid sauce, Jax gets employee reevaluation by flashing lights because, fun fact, some rabbits have epilepsy, and did I mention before that nothing really happens in this episode? I guess it was nice to see Pomni reunite with Gummy Goo again, but the rest of the episode is just these characters working at the knockoff Mickey D's, and that's it. I do like how every single one of the employees, except for Kinger, got a B+ at the end of the day, because we all know Kinger deserves an A+.
The GOAT! The GOAT!
Not a bad episode, but a pretty empty one. If I had to describe the pilot, it would be this. A simple, fun, and at times pretty funny episode that lets the viewers know this is what you're gonna get throughout the entire show. It can get a bit exposition heavy, and the animation isn't quite there yet, but since this is a pilot, I don't think that final attribute is something for me to knock a point off. The introduction alone, with Pomni petrified with the fact that she is now trapped within the circus, is enough to make the viewer sympathize with her, despite the circus being this colorful place full of magic and wonder. When I said this pilot is exposition heavy, I meant that. They kind of over-explain things in this episode. Like, did I really need to know about the digital carnival when it was barely used or mentioned in the following episodes? No, I didn't. I did, however, like how they explained the concept of abstraction. Leaving Kaufmo out of the theme song allowed the viewers to wonder what actually happened to him. You also get a great idea of every character's personalities. I will say, however, I do not like Jax. In fact, I hate him. I know, it's very shocking coming from a guy whose channel's name is Rabbits and Reels, but he's such a jerk. He's not even a funny jerk. The only time I laughed at one of his jokes was when he broke the spare sign with his knee. And while we're on the subject with jokes, Kane and Bubble can actually be pretty funny in this episode, especially when Bubble eats the angel fruitcake.
You parasite!
I also love how they explain the concept of adventures being these minigames that the characters are required to play with very little in the way of reward. In the end, this is a great pilot and a great introduction to the series, and if you liked it, it'll for sure leave you wanting more.
Gummy bears!
I don't really have that much to say about episode 2. Pomni's dream sequence was a perfect way to begin the episode. Then after that, the episode just kinda goes all over the place. At first, they have to bring the bandits to justice, then they get their own tanker, then Jax tries to kill Pomni, then Pomni gets sent under the map, then they're helping the bandits. I don't know, it's very confusing. I will say, Pomni and Gummy Goo's relationship as friends was very wholesome and sweet. It did break my heart at the end when he was snapped away by Kane. Rest in peace, Gummy Goo. You were a real lad. Not just kidding, he does come back in a later episode, but his memory was erased. The funeral scene for Kaufmo at the end wasn't necessary, but I thought it was sweet, especially with the sequence lacking any dialogue. You know what they say, actions speak louder than words. So to sum it up, Kaufmo's funeral, I'm not a child, you don't have to hype me up. And Pomni's relationship with Gummy Goo, good. Everything else, kind of forgettable, but not bad.
Boo.
haunted house.
It's difficult for me to rank episode 3 because I really love how they handled Kinger in this one. Plus it gives us some nice additions to the digital circus lore, like each character's having special abilities. But it also consists of those exact same problems I had with episode 2. Particularly, the Zooble side plot didn't need to be there. I would have loved it for them to show the deeper lore meaning for Zooble's character instead of telling it during a therapy session. We could have alternatively seen Zooble in their room trying on different parts and being disappointed that nothing works. That would have been a much more stronger way to tell the story. But I guess if this scene didn't exist, then we wouldn't have gotten this scene where Kane draws a cool bee. But on the bright side, I do like the small details they added, like those 2D animated spiders at some points within the episode, the creepy heads of each circus member mounted on the wall as if they were killed. The small details like that really amp up the horror factor that this episode brings. The moment when Pomni gets possessed by demons really had me in a state of fear, and going back to what I said earlier about Kinger, this episode made me go from liking Kinger to absolutely loving Kinger. I kid you not, because of this episode, Kinger is my favorite character in the digital circus. I love how he and Pomni have this father-daughter relationship. I love how he explains the events that happened before his wife Queenie was sent to the cellar, and that moment when he told Pomni, "Good memories can do a lot. Hold on to them, and cherish the people around you. You never know when they're gone." Oh my god, that message didn't need to hit home, but it does. I can just go on and on about how wonderful Kinger is in this episode, but let's get back to those problems that I had with this episode. Jax, Ragatha, and Gangle don't really do much. I mentioned how Zooble gets an entirely useless subplot, but these three characters don't get a plot at all. In fact, Jax is tied up in a wagon and unable to speak. Good episode, but I wish they did more with the characters, and I think that side plot with Zooble could have either been shortened or taken out entirely. But thank you, Mystery and Mildenhall Manor, for making Kinger my favorite character in the digital circus.
Looks like this beach was a little too much beach for you.
If I wasn't severely injured, I would beat you off right now.
Woo, mama! It's the freaking beach episode.
Good boy.
Episode 7 is such a fun time, and it's also the episode where it starts to get real. The beginning was funny, but it also felt kinda slow. The Chinese room bit seemed like an interesting concept, but it wasn't nearly as funny or as interesting as I thought it would be. The beach part of the episode was kinda mid, and I don't think there was that much interesting stuff going on, and oh my god, it's Charlie from Smiling Friends! Anyway, as predictable as the second half with Abel was, it was still an interesting look into what life could be like outside of the circus. As a Christian, as soon as I saw the Cain and Abel biblical reference, I'm like, gee, I wonder where this is gonna go. And sure enough, Cain ends up killing Abel. Who could have seen that coming? All jokes aside, there's one massive upside to this episode. Glitch clearly got a bigger animation budget because when comparing this episode to all the previous episodes, the shading is better, the colors are more pronounced, and the movements are more crisp. The best example of this is Jax's near abstraction. I mean, look at this. I feel like I'm watching it in 4K. I have to give a massive round of applause to the animators for improving so much in a short amount of time. Not my favorite episode, but it's still worth a watch.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
Oh, where do I begin with episode 5? This one is a vibe, and it also has some of the most iconic one-liners and visual gags in the entire series. The intermission sequence is my current wake-up alarm and is already enough for me to consider this a top-tier episode, and despite that, it still leaves room for character development and exploring all the different relationships between each of the cast members. Maybe the best example of character development would have to be the Noir bar adventure, and while we're on the subject of adventures, the animation team over at Glitch really stretched their limits from neo-noir to full-blown anime. I don't even like anime, and even I thought that was impressive. What can I say? This episode made me very happy. It was a visual feast, and if you're an animation fan like me, you'll love this one.
Sir, get down! Sir, get down! Sir, get down!
In episode 6, they all get guns. It even says so in the title. Oh, I just want to point out before I begin reviewing episode 6, I love how they included Easter eggs to other Glitch shows in some of these episodes. Like, you cannot look me right in the face and tell me that that's not Uzi's railgun from Murder Drones. And if you say that it's not, well, then bite me! Wait, what was I talking about again? Oh yeah, episode 6. On the surface, it's just an episode where the characters are doing a battle royale around the circus, but there's actually a shocking amount of character development buried underneath all the chaos. I'm specifically pointing to the scene where Jax and Pomni get into an argument towards the end of the episode. First off, hats off to Michael Kovacs for his acting. You can really feel the raw emotion and existential dread in his voice as he's scolding Pomni. He realizes he's getting closer to her, but pushes her away because he's scared to develop that relationship just to be hurt again. The funny one persona is a mask that he uses to hide his fears and doubts, but in reality, it just hurts him in the end. I also need to point out that one scene with Ragatha and my goat Kinger in the loser corner. There's an excellent use of symbolism where Kinger talks to Ragatha about relationships being two-sided, and it cuts to a visual representation of the fish in the tank representing what Kinger is talking to Ragatha about. Small details like that just goes to show that there's a lot more to this episode than pure mayhem. And let's not forget that this is probably the best use of the song Daisy Bell in any form of media. Jax and Pomni's duet is funny and wholesome at the same time. It shows them coming together before the argument happened. This episode is truly a banger, no pun intended.
I'm going to kill you and then kill you again.
If episode 7 was where stuff started to get real, then episode 8, with this title I'm not even gonna try to pronounce, is where we realize the consequences of that stuff. Kane's musical number is a showstopper. For that matter, Alex Rochon's entire performance as Kane has got to be one of the best vocal performances in any indie project. He manages to keep that ringmaster tone while overlaying a more sinister delivery. The opening is quite the choice that Glitch made. I love how instead of a scene literally showing the backstory of the circus, they use these abstract shapes and images to depict the horrifying origins of the circus. There were so many callbacks to the previous episodes, and I thought it was a really good choice for the penultimate episode. From the bucket in episode 2 to mentioning the butterfly from episode 6, even Pomni's reaction to her reflection from the pilot was in there. Every single detail they sprinkled in this episode was thoroughly thought out before the final chapter, or should I say, the last act of the digital circus.
Don't ruin the movie. Thank you.
Which is clearly something I have to say to some bozos who leaked the whole movie! I'm sorry for the interruption, but I need to take the time to apologize to everyone at Glitch who worked really hard on this finale only to have a bunch of nose pickers reveal the ending before it releases. That's not fair to them, and by supporting these leaks, it completely disrespects all the creativity and effort put behind this project. Gooseworx had every right to get mad at these fans, and I can understand why she doesn't want to touch this series again because of them. So great job, you twits! You pissed off the creator, you pissed off the casual watchers of the series, and...
No, don't.
It's too late.
Come on, dude, don't.
It's already in motion.
Well, put it out of motion!
You pissed me off. I'm sorry for freaking out like that. Seeing some of my favorite creators put their heart and soul into a project only to get spat in the face by their own fan base not only makes me worried about the culture of cinema, but it also makes me worried about what will happen in my future. I have 1 year left of film school, and I love making and reviewing movies whether they're good or bad. It just hurts that I'm gonna have to expect some people to try and leak my content early, and seeing indie creators like Gooseworx have their projects disrespected like this makes me anxious about what will happen to other smaller creators like me. And it's unfortunate that this leak happened, because this episode was by far the best episode in the entire series. Glitch has done something remarkable that countless other series have failed to achieve. A perfect ending. I can name at least 10 TV shows off the top of my head where the story is intriguing and they hook me only to disappoint me at the finale. The fact that an indie team that started their careers by making Mario posts has now gone on to create a quality story and a satisfying ending with just a single season is absolutely phenomenal. The story picks up right after episode 8, and we finally see Jack start to crumble under the weight of his past relationships and mistakes. It was no surprise that he was going to abstract by the end of the series, but the way that they handled his story was the perfect blend of artistry, humor, and raw emotion. I was bawling at the Return of the Maid outfit, I was bawling at the Looney Tunes gag, I was bawling at Pomni and the rest of the cast supporting Jax when he wanted to push them away, and most importantly, I was bawling at his complicated relationship with Ribbit. Also, I need to point out that Kane's redemption was satisfying to watch. The presentation he gives at the end to the remaining circus members absolutely got the waterworks going, and it's not just his apology that makes it wonderful. It's the reveal of their real names and the fact that they are digital copies of their real-life counterparts. Even the ones that abstracted, like Queenie and Jax, got the same treatment. I can't even begin to express the feelings I felt watching this grand finale. Gooseworx and Glitch wrapped this series up in a nice, sweet, and tidy bow, and I couldn't be more proud of them. To say that I'm utterly impressed with this series would be a massive understatement. From 2023 till now, the amazing digital circus has captivated creative minds like me and have proven time and time again that smaller creators can still make big impacts with their art. I mean, when you look at what we've gotten this year, it looks like indie creators are getting more attention and love, from Iron Lung to Obsession to the Backrooms, and now Digital Circus. I am truly going to miss this series and the wonderful crew behind it. But at the same time, I understand sometimes the best shows don't need a second season, and that's okay because it gives the creators room to breathe and produce something that's just as good or better than the previous project. Thank you, Gooseworx and Glitch, for this series. And to those of you watching, the next time, I will be returning to my roots of Ronan's Tomatoes for my next review. So for the last time, thank you and good night.